That's
Loud
really
enough.
loud.
Can y'all hear us? Thumbs up if you can hear us. Good, good, good. By show of hands, who is here for the very first time? Here for the very first time. All right, give everybody a round. All right. All right, welcome to the Westbank Real Estate Investors Meetup. I'm Emil Hurst Jr. Put this on with Aussie Steve. We've been doing this since 2019. So for the people that are here for the first time, we hope that this is not your last time. We put this together for real estate investors that are aspiring, that are active, and that just want to take their activity to the next level if they're already active. And there is no guilt, no sales, nothing under the table to be sold. We just want you to come here, network, and be the best that you can be, and we can all make our community better, right? One of the highlights is we get the opportunity to interview guests that are local, interview guests that are active, interview guests that are practitioners, and that we admire the way that they do business. And the guest that we have tonight definitely fits the mold of everything we just described. We're talking about experience, when you talk about class, when you talk about consistency, when you talk about grit, when you talk about attitude, you talk about Gabriella
Chescon.
Francescon. Everybody put your hand together for Gabriella.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna have fun tonight, so let's get into it. So the question we start off with everybody. So how do you even get into the real estate industry? Period.
How did I?
Yes. How did you get into the real estate industry?
I got fired from my job for the attitude. Just kidding, but not really. I did get fired from my job, and I was a bartender. I was in the service industry, but I had a very cushy bartending job where I was making six figures as a bartender. And we had two small children at home, and I needed to replace that income very quickly. Real estate, being a real estate agent, had always been in the back of my mind. And so I went and took the real estate course, and 2 weeks later had a real estate license.
Wow. Okay. What was next steps from there? So as far as where'd you get started, and tell us about that first transaction,
Oh man.
if you remember.
So I do remember my first transaction. It wasn't too bad, but that first year as a real estate agent was brutal. I did like 10 transactions. I did get a part time job. I quit like 3 times. I cried most of the time. I was like, I cannot do this. This is horrific. This is so hard. I was quite a people pleaser. And so I'm always like trying to run around and go crazy to make sure everybody was happy in the transaction. And it took a toll on me for sure. So that first year was really brutal.
Oh, so I thought you quit the part-time jobs 3 times. So you
No,
quit.
I quit real estate.
Okay, all right.
But I quit. I just like went in my room
Mentally.
and cried and then got my big girl panties on and went back out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you overcome that? I'm glad you said that, because when people first start out, they watch the shows and they think that real estate is going to be like it is on Netflix and
Mm-hmm.
VH1 and HGTV. So what was your reality, and how did you overcome that feeling of quitting?
Well, just to be really raw, like there was no plan B. Like, what was I going to just be a bartender forever?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have any other industry to fall back on. I was working at night. I had small children. I was away from them at night. And then I was like barely sleeping because I didn't want to sleep all day. And, I knew that I couldn't build the life that I wanted. And I wasn't sticking to my why by, not having a job that could build a bigger life.
Yeah.
So there was just no plan B. I just had to make it work.
Yeah. What was that first transaction out of the 10 from your first year? What, you remember that one?
Yeah, it was a sweet couple that I still talk to, and they bought a house in Metairie, and they had bought houses before, so they essentially walked me through it. And I had a great support team for that transaction. The lender was really great, the title company, so they all kind of just like held my little baby hand, and we got through it.
So fast forwarding a little bit, when did you feel like you started getting your stride in the business to start understanding absolutely the sales side? What year was that?
So I got started in 2015, and really, I think that things clicked and shifted for me in 2018.
Okay. What specifically, you remember how you felt, that you felt comfortable? What was it about the experience that you were going through that started to make you feel more comfortable, you think?
So I shifted focus from like transactional and I need to close this many deals and I need to make this many sales to really just throwing that out the window. With the training I was getting within my brokerage, they were constantly like, you need to make this many phone calls to close this many deals, things like that. And it just never really felt, that's not me. I'm not like analytical. I am creative and spacey and all over the place. So like my idea of literal hell is to sit in an office and like make cold calls. And so that year I had a lot going on in my personal life, and like my mindset shifted to this is transaction based business to this is just people. And if you go out there and you build genuine connections with people in your community, you can't fail.
Wow.
So I just shifted from chasing listings and chasing buyers and chasing deals to like, let me go build genuine connections and relationships with people.
Yeah. So, and I hear that a lot, like on YouTube. What's an example of that as far as building a relationship? Somebody might hear that and think, I just need to have coffee with somebody once a year and they should be my client. But in actuality, what does building a relationship look like to an experienced realtor?
Yeah. So for me, it's problem solving. Like you have two people, how can they fit together? I mean, that's any relationship really.
Yeah.
So personal or business, like how can I fill your holes and how can you, that sounds bad. How can I fill the gaps? Don't. Anyway. How can I fill the gaps in what you have going on? And, so just kind of like pouring into people and having them pour into you.
Okay, I like that. So, how many people in the room are realtors? All right, and how many people in the room are investors? So, how many people in the room are realtors and investors? Okay, so Gabriella, you ended up being an investor also, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you go from getting from 2015 and now hitting a stride in 2018 to kind of shifting your focus a little bit? Like, what drew you into the real estate investing space initially? What called you to that side?
Well, real estate agenting is good money, like right now money, but then you close the deal and you're jobless again. Like you're unemployed, you have to start over. And so I had to figure out like I need to generate some passive income. I need to build a legacy to be able to leave for my kids. When I'm not here, I want them to be taken care of. And so I knew that the way to build real wealth was through real estate. I mean, duh. I actually, being an agent, I would see people invest here and there, but I just always assumed that I got to save up 25%. I don't have money to put down on a deal, Even as an agent, they don't teach you anything about investing. You think they do, they don't. So I, was like trying to scrape together a down payment for a property and, life would just happen and it never came to fruition. And so during COVID, when we were like watching Tiger King and baking bread, I downloaded TikTok like everyone else and came across Sam Faster Freedom. And I just like started binge watching his videos and he was explaining how using other people's money. And I was like, wow. I was like, cool. Okay. And then I just did it.
Yeah. So what was the why behind the real estate investing? So because it sounds like legacy is important to you, but it could have went in a direction of stocks, or it could have went in the direction of franchise and things like that. But what was it about real estate investing? Was it because it was already close proximity to what you were doing? What was it about investing you think that was attractive and pulling?
So the real answer is that in that year 2018 when things had kind of shifted for me, my dad was missing for like 8 years. And so we had been looking for my dad and my dad was homeless. when we found him. He was not well, but we did find him, and my dad was homeless. And so that really kind of struck a nerve with me, how like this person that, had always been employed, had always taken care of us, kept shelter, went from that to being homeless. And so I guess I just need to have a bunch of houses so everybody can live in a house.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense.
So that's partially what it is, the safety of it, and, having an asset attached to the wealth. And, if my kids ever want to come home when they're adults, like I hope that they're independent and traveling the world. But if they want to come home, I want to have a home to put them in.
Yeah. So of course, investment is a risky business. So having that dream in mind, from what you learn now, can you just walk us through your due diligence process right now when you're looking at deals? So what does it look like when somebody sends you a deal like on Patworth Street and you look at it and you just say it's overpriced? Now I'm just playing. What does it look like when you do due diligence on a deal right now?
So for myself and what I tell my clients, sometimes those things don't match, by the way, because obviously I'm going to be way more conservative with my clients. But right now I'm reining myself in. My primary due diligence, it has to have 2 exit strategies.
Okay.
So if it can't be flipped, or if it's going to sit on the market for a long time, or if I don't think I can pay out my lender in the term that we agreed upon, is this going to cash flow as a rental? So it has to meet both of those criterias, or it's no deal.
I like it. What about that equals those 2 exit strategies? So is it what percentage of the ARV, for example, of construction costs? Yeah. So what metrics are you paying attention to make sure those 2 exit strategies exist?
Okay, so get ready to laugh, because I just told you I'm not like an analytical person. And my husband will come. He really does a lot of the underwriting now. Since I've scooped him into the business. And he'll come in and he'll be like, it'll net us this much. I'm like, no. And he's like, that's 15%. I'm like, I don't care. I don't like it. Not enough. So realistically, I don't know. Just whatever feels right at the time. If it's going to take 6 months to rehab it, I don't want to make 15 grand. It needs to be like, yay, this is exciting. So I don't have a metric.
Yeah. And I love that.
If I've flipped 2 recently that were just fast, and one was really awesome, but the other one was just like, it was fine, but it was fast, so we didn't have to do anything. But if it has to take up my brain space, because I don't do the work,
right?
But if it has to take up my brain space, it needs to net me what feels right.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's our metric?
All right.
And we have to pay off our private money lenders 10% at the end of the deal. We don't do interest-only payments every month, so we pay them 10% at the end of the deal plus what they let us borrow. So that plus whatever it costs to rehab, if it's like you said, if it's over, if it's under 15% for 8 months, then it's no good. We might as well just move on to the next one. If it's 15% and it's going to take us 4 months, then it's
yeah. So for the people that couldn't hear, so 50% ARV.
Yeah. 50. Sorry, go ahead.
I probably that's what I remember.
It depends. Sometimes we could do 65% if it's in I love to do Metairie because I grew up in Metairie, so I know what it's like there. So I know what these houses sell for, no matter what. Even if the exit strategy is just put it back on the MLS as is.
Which is my favorite.
Yes, our favorite.
Yeah, it depends on the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So having that local market knowledge is critical.
Yeah. And that's what I love about when you say that you were creative. Real estate investing, what we discovered, it's not about the strategy, it's about the strategy that works for you. And those are the numbers that work for you guys, right? So can you describe a time where that was the plan, but that didn't happen that way?
In a negative way?
Has it went left yet? Or before?
So I am super fictitious, so I don't want to say it out loud, but we
Okay.
haven't lost on any.
That's perfect. Have you seen it go left before?
Mhm.
What's an example?
So I mean, clients that, paid too much for properties, and then at the, my poor client, I feel so bad for him. He just paid too much. He was guided. He was out of state. He was guided by, someone that wasn't super knowledgeable, not me. And he's sitting, the market shifted. He took too long, and the market shifted, and, now he's sitting on these properties that are not moving.
Yeah.
And, he's upside down. So right now, especially, I am seeing that with clients, which is why it's so critical to have multiple exit strategies. If you're doing, if you're using private money, especially, I'm so protective of my private lenders. Like, sometimes these are people's retirements or 401ks. Like, I'm not borrowing. The people I borrow from are just kind of everyday people that, made some good decisions and have money and just want to see their money grow. They're not, multimillionaires for the most part. And so, if you're going to take someone's retirement and try to get them a return for your benefit, like, you better know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And things can happen that are unforeseen, like the uptick. Our first one, actually, we were slated, we made like a third of what we were supposed to make, because when we bought it with the intention of BRRRR, interest rates skyrocketed. That strategy didn't work anymore. We had to pivot and flip it. But we had so much room on that one that we couldn't really lose. So yeah, I mean, if you're borrowing somebody else's money, you need to have multiple strategies, and you need to figure out, like, what am I going to do if this doesn't go the way I thought? Like, I need to get this person their money back.
Right. Absolutely. So making that third, is that kind of how your investment due diligence kind of got crafted from that, or you already had those metrics in place?
I mean, I learned a little bit from that, and so when those margins are slim, it scares me, because, I literally watched the market shift right before my eyes. And so if you have a 15% margin, well, then what happens if, 5 insurance carriers pull out of the market again, and your insurance rate just doubled again? So those small margins make me nervous. And flipping is not the main source of my income, so I can be a little more selective on the deal, because we still have income from other sources. So yeah, it did influence my due diligence, and that's why I don't really like the baby deals.
Yeah. What kind of gives you the confidence to approach and stay in on the real estate investing side? Is it tools? Is it a group? Is it books that kind of gives you the motivation to stay bold and stay in the real estate investing space?
It's money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is like money, makes life easier, and money will get me to my goals of building this legacy for my family and things like that. And so this is the skill, and this is my craft. And, they're kind of parallel, being an agent. And so I don't know, why not?
Yeah. And how you kind of balance, so when looking at deals, what you looking at it for yourself versus bringing it to other people? You kind of underwrite them first, or you kind of group underwrite it? How do you kind of divide opportunities when they come into your wheelhouse?
Yeah. So for the most part, I think that it's tough to find a deal on the MLS. So oftentimes my clients aren't using me on the front end, to purchase. They're bringing it to me when it's time to go retail. Like, I'm an expert on a retail resale property. I'm not an expert investor. I'm still very much a student. I'm still learning. Of course, I can help people with that, but I encourage my clients, if you really want to find deals, you need to get on wholesale lists. I'm not gonna be out there grinding, calling. I'm not doing that. I might have done that 6 years ago, but let's be real, I'm not doing that. But when it's time to put your house on the market, like, we're gonna make sure it's presented perfectly and positioned in a way to maximize your ARV. I forgot the question. What?
I think you already answered it.
Okay.
So as far as on the real estate investing side, so rentals versus flips, do you guys have like a ratio as far as how many flips per rental, or all rentals and is flip, or is all a numbers game?
It's just based on the deal. What does the deal allow? It's tough to get things to cash flow in our market right now. And so the rentals hasn't really been on the radar too much, but if it cash flows and it's in decent shape, like bring it on.
Yeah. I know you mentioned that you said you just started in the real estate investing side, but I mean, being an expert realtor, you already have a skill set that a lot of people, coming to real estate investing don't have. What about being a realtor you think helps you on the real estate investment side?
Like how does it help me as an investor?
Yeah, that skill set.
Something that like Steve said once is that he's going to start flipping every now and then because flipping is going to make him a better wholesaler, And so when you get into real estate, a lot of times they'll tell you like, oh, you need to work with investors, because they're going to feed you business. But in order to work with a specific niche, you need to have gone through it yourself. How can you guide and consult and teach someone something that you haven't done yourself? So then being in the investing world is making me a better realtor for investors.
Yeah.
I think I answered that backwards.
Yeah. Well, so I guess I'm saying the lens of being a realtor, when you look at a deal, maybe how you look at it differently than other people.
Okay.
So a person that's never been licensed, first of all, to get comps, they're gonna have to go to a realtor. That's one thing you don't have to do at all.
No.
So I guess that's an example. So what other things you think you have an advantage versus other people with your experience in being a realtor in the real estate investing space?
So I work with buyers actively, retail buyers that are in the market for properties to be their home.
Okay.
I know like firsthand what truly is important to them. I feel like you lose touch with the end result when you're flipping and you're like worried about copper pipes and stuff. Like buyers are more so concerned with like, oh, this countertop is ugly. And so I think that the advantage I have is that I have my finger on the pulse of how buyers are feeling, what they're experiencing. I know which set of buyers right now is being most impacted by insurance increases and rate increases and things like that. So I think I get to see the other side of the market because I divide real estate up into investment real estate and retail real estate. Like they're different.
What's
and
the difference?
how you approach those two markets is different. Like retail real estate is kind of a different set of rules. Like, you might make an offer on a property off market and it's a huge, deep discount. But like, if you come to my listing and you make a 70% offer, like we're going to ignore you.
Right.
We're not. We're going to present the offer. My broker is right there. I'm going to send it to him. But, so I think that, investors forget how emotional retail real estate can be, and then I think real estate agents that don't work in the investing arena forget that there's kind of a different set of rules there.
Yeah. So knowing what you know now, even though you may think it's you knew, but I think if anybody's done more than two, like, you're good, and you still in it, right?
Yeah.
So, but knowing what you know now, would you do anything different on like your first deal, knowing what you know now, and what would it be?
I don't know. I mean, probably I would have done better. Like, again, like how I advise my clients, I don't listen to myself. Like we didn't do a video pipe inspection, right? Bad me, I was like, it's fine. It's like such a spread. It's fine. And so, we had that. I mean, I guess I wish I would have, our estimation of repairs was horrible. Like, oh Lord, I literally walked in there. I'm like, yeah, this looks like about 70. Like that was how I assessed it. It was not, so, I probably should have like brought more than one contractor through that one, just, really? I don't know, little things like that. I feel like that most investors go through.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You wear a lot of hats.
Okay.
So how how in the world do you balance work and life at the same time? You figured out a 27-hour day, or how do you stretch the time? Like how do you do it?
So you don't balance, you drop shit. Like,
Okay.
you know, you do. It's it's
That's
not
true.
perfect. Like if you're for me especially, I'm not like I don't have it all figured out.
Mhm.
And so sometimes when I'm thriving at work, I have like this huge mom guilt because, I might have had to work late that day or I don't miss anything for my kids, but I feel like I didn't spend enough time with them or I'm stressed at work or something. And then when I am like really showing up as a mom, I have to set strong boundaries in my business and that might make an impact. Or I might come home and snap at Michael, not me, so it's never all harmonious and, it's just all life. And so I don't know if you're thriving. Typically, if I'm thriving in one area, I might be struggling in another. But I also have a phenomenal support system. My husband quit his job. Well, he got laid off during COVID. And then we just kind of decided together, like, let's make this work because, he was home all the time. And he was like going to get the kids from school and like doing all the things, going to the grocery and like helping. It was awesome. And I'm like, you can't go back to work. Like, this rocks. We have to figure this out, And so having a really great like teammate is important. And then, I have a really great village. Again, back to everything is relationships. Like I know I have 5 friends that I can call right now that will show up at my little talk thing or they'll come get my kids from school or something like that. So having a building relationships and having a community, like I can't succeed alone. I mean, if you can, cool, but I'll be like addicted to Xanax in the bed. And, like I'd go crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I definitely agree with that. That support systems for any entrepreneur, period, let alone an entrepreneur that's
Learn
in
how
real
to ask
estate.
for help.
Yeah.
It's like you're not going to get a medal for doing it all yourself. You're going to get like a mental breakdown.
Yeah. And speaking of mental breakdowns, the shift that we went through last year, kind of coming toward the tail end of it, what how did you do with navigating the shift as a realtor, and what's some of the lessons learned from that shift?
I think that I'm kind of spoiled and protected because my client base is a bunch of investors. And so I learned that building relationships within this niche has been really beneficial for me because, investors, while they've been impacted, they're still doing deals. My price point was typically a little bit higher. And I feel like that they weren't feeling that burn as much as like the first time home buyer crowd or something like that. So I am very thankful and I don't, say this lightly, but I've been pretty fortunate through the shift. And again, just go build more relationships. Like there's closings happening every single day. You log into your MLS, no matter what day of the week it is, Christmas, there's closings. And so you just have to figure out how to insert yourself into that equation. And so, the market to me doesn't matter. And if I'm feeling like things are slowing down, then I just go build more relationships because every head needs a roof,
Yeah. So what advice does 2024 Gabriella give 2015 Gabriella?
I don't know, go faster, like don't go get a part-time job, go like all in on this. I don't know, figure out how to raise money faster, sooner, just do things sooner. But how can you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we get an opportunity to be in rooms like this and ask experts
Right.
like you. That's one way to.
I didn't even know these rooms existed then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So just that's another thing, like exposing yourself to lots of different people. You never know who has something to offer and what you can offer to them. And so it's just kind of like if you spread value is going to come back to you. And so just getting out there and meeting more people so you can learn about rooms like this and put yourself in, the right space.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us about money, raising
Love
private
money.
money. Yeah, definitely. what you say you were on TikTok and you kept scrolling, you got introduced. Who was it?
His name's Sam Prim. I actually flew to St. Louis, Missouri and met him. He's become a friend of mine and, you know, kind of a mentor. He's really great.
Nice. So what did you learn about raising money that you apply now that you didn't know before?
So people with money love to talk about money, and I learned that. And I feel like, you know, a lot of times we are taught that money is taboo and talking about money is taboo. But again, going back to the relationship and figuring out how to solve a problem, you know, my first private money lender experience, I think as an agent too, if you're an agent, you have $1 million that you could have next week. And I'm going to tell you right now, you absolutely do within your phone, within your database. It's pretty easy. So I had a client who was an attorney and he was buying a rental property and, you know, he bought like the third one. And I mean, he was paying cash. He was just like, and not asking questions initially. I was like, all right, I'm there. And so, but then he like bought the third one and I'm like, well, can I ask you why you're buying these rentals? Cause he was never a real estate person. Like he had one primary residence. So like stalked, you know? And so he's like, well, during COVID, I took all my money out of the stock market and that was stupid. And so now I just have money sitting and it's not earning anything. And so that goes back to with any sales position, like you have to ask questions, you have to problem solve, you have to figure out what's important to them, which is why I asked, like, why are you buying rentals? What's important about rentals to you? Like, you want to be a landlord? And so I asked him, well, have you ever considered lending money for real estate deals? And he's like, oh, tell me about that. And so I tell him and he's like, no, that sounds complicated. I'm like, all right. And so we end the call. And then he literally, I called my husband to be like, I finally asked. And he said no. And he called me right back. He's like, tell me about that again. I'm like, okay. I tell him. He's like, all right, let's do it. I was like,
what was the pitch? What was the pitch that he called back?
I said, oh.
I mean, percentage wise terms, did you go?
I didn't go into all that because I tell my lenders, and it's very true, that it depends on the deal, like how much. So, and I didn't know anything. I knew nothing. So immediately I called Jared Miguez. I'm like, dude, help me. Like, what do I say? You know, so he did. And, you know, and I was comfortable enough to tell him I hadn't done that before. And so, and he was an attorney, like he could end me. So like he wasn't, you know, he was fine. And then we did a deal. That was the first deal and it was great. It went great. And he got his little return. It was not little, it was awesome. And then, same thing. I had a client and they unloaded a bunch of rental properties with me and they had inherited these properties. And then they called me like a month later and they're like, we want to buy some land. And I was like, why? You know, and they're like, well, we have all this money and nowhere to put it. I'm like, I have an idea. And I've gone on to do 3 deals with them. They're just siblings that inherited property. And then talking about it and posting about it on social media and talking to my friends and stuff. I've had friends that, you know, who was also a client and came to me and was like, we're earmarking some money for you to invest because it's a win-win for both parties. So talk about what you're doing. If you're an agent and you have a client that's like writing checks and cash, you know, find out why. You know, so just asking questions and problem solving.
How do you get past having that conversation?
What do you mean?
Because like you said, I guess normally we train that talking about money is kind of taboo, right? So maybe you
rich people love money.
So how do you even start the conversation with somebody to discuss borrowing money for real estate deals? What's the example of that?
Well, for those two, it was kind of more so I got to that point by asking questions about why they were buying real estate. Because it was just, I mean, it was like I said, as somebody who was buying rentals, you want to be a landlord, it doesn't really fit the little picture. And then, the other client wanted to buy land. And if you're an agent, you need to pre-qual your clients, pre-qualify. Like before you go to a listing appointment, you need to be asking questions. Before you go out with a buyer, you need to ask questions. So that's just my nature. If someone says, I want to do this, why? What's your goal with this? Are you buying this land to like build a farm and have chickens? No.
Yeah.
And so that's when she brought up the money. I just have all this money and I don't know what to do with it. And real estate's a safe investment. And so then I said, okay, well, I have an idea for you. And so I told her that I buy real estate using other people's money and I give them a return on the investment, and it's secured with a mortgage. And it's attached to the asset, so it's protected by the asset. Now I'm more confident. But I mean, they don't even typically in that situation too. Like, don't be afraid to just ask, because if you are like fearful they're going to ask questions you don't know the answer to, that is like the story of my life. But if you don't just ask the questions, and you're never going to learn the things to answer the questions later. And if they're a new lender, they're not going to ask because they don't know what to ask, and if you don't know the answer to the question, you just say, look, the title attorney's I'm going to, what? I actually did three-way call a title attorney, and I was like, answer these questions. So you just find someone, that goes back to just building a good rapport with people that want to help you succeed.
Yeah. So what type of deals can a group help you to fund and solve your problem? So right now you got a money problem, but it's a good money problem. I
have
too much money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what type of deals right now can help you solve that problem?
We need flips. So just if you're a wholesaler, put me on your list. If you're an agent and you have a good property, you can have both sides of the deal, or I'll give you a referral fee or whatever my broker makes me do. You can have both sides to incentivize you to bring me that deal, because I understand as an agent, if you have something that's a good flip, you want to sell it to someone that's going to use you to list it again. So we just get that over with on the front end. So if you need someone that can move quickly, have access to cash, we are absolutely cash buyers, and I can buy quick.
What parts of town?
Not Gentilly.
You said not?
Yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. So anywhere on the South Shore, really, Metairie, Kenner, most of New Orleans. If the numbers make sense, I try to just stay in my little area because I know those areas. Uptown, Lakeview, that's not gonna happen. Mid-City, Metairie, Kenner,
yeah, definitely. When we talked on the phone the other day, we talked about our whys, right? So and I kind of mentioned a quote that some people are driven by either fear, desire. So what's how would you describe your why? Because you do a lot. So what is the driving fierce force? What's the why?
Yeah. So, you kind of dropped a bomb on me, and I had been thinking about it since, because I always said, like, I want my kids to be proud of me. I was not proud of my parents. I would not, I didn't want people to know who they were. Wow. And so to me, I was always like, I want my kids to be proud. And it's sweet. I've sold houses to their teachers, and, I've used their friends' parents as private lenders, and we've made money together, and they'll be like, oh, my mom sold you this house, and that's great. But once you put that in my head, I was like, that's really my why. I was raised by, an addict, and my mom was in and out of prison and rehab. And, I went in 13 different homes before I was 18, and that's what drives me. That's not going to happen here. Like, it ends with me. And so that's what drives me for sure. So it's that. So now you got me all messed up. I thought I had this figured out.
Well, now we know, right?
Yeah.
Now we know, right? Yeah. So the group can help you definitely bring deals. Anywhere but Gentilly. You can send Gentilly deals.
You can bring me Gentilly. And that's just really hard right now.
We're still raising private money right now, or you still taking lenders right now?
Is anybody gonna say no? I'm super spoiled though. Y'all don't want to lend to me. Like, my lender literally sends the money to the title company, and I see them in 12 months.
So you spoiled right now.
I don't do monthly payments. I'm not doing any of that.
Yeah.
Just bring me deals.
For sure. And how far are you guys investing out right now? You just When you say your little area, what is that specifically?
Orleans, Jefferson, a little bit of St. Bernard, maybe, but New Orleans, Metairie, Kenner, really.
Okay. All right. We'll take audience questions in a little bit. I want to make sure I have this on camera. How can people get in touch with you?
Literally any kind of way you can imagine, but I have a whole bunch of business cards. You can call me, text me. You can find me on Facebook. I'm very active on social media. My name is Gabriella Francescon. Good luck. And Instagram is probably easier. It's Gabriella Nola Realtor.
Okay.
But if you want a card, I'll give you that. And if you text me, I'll send you all my little doodads.
Okay. And before we take the audience questions, what's your predictions on the market retail side? What's your gut telling you about the rest of the year?
I think we're still inventory's on the rise. I'm seeing that for sure. I think buyers are still a little fearful. I think the biggest factor is just insurance. We got to figure out this insurance thing. So
Yeah.
I think that it's really what's dragging our market down. So
Yeah.
I don't see that getting better right this minute.
I want to just piggyback on that for the investor that's looking to do flips right now, right? Can you kind of explain what that insurance looks
Sure.
like for a flipper? Like they hear it,
Yeah.
and if it's your first flip and all the numbers work, but it will not move because of the
Right.
insurance. What does that look like on the retail side? Why is
Right.
that insurance a problem?
So that goes back to having the benefit of, you're underwriting a deal. You might not be taking insurance costs because if you do get a policy, it's going to be much less, or you bought it with cash and you don't want a policy. But you have to remember your end product and who you're selling it to. And so if you're selling a $350,000 house, you have to remember that they're going to get a mortgage, they're going to escrow the insurance, and that's going to drive their monthly payment and their closing costs up. So what does that look like? We need to know what that looks like. And, it's are you replacing the roof to drive down that insurance cost? Or are you going to leave the 10-year-old roof on it? And now you have a $12,000 insurance quote that drives up their payment $1,000 a month, and that absolutely affects your bottom line. That affects the value of the house and what people can afford to pay.
Yeah. Have you seen any strategy? I know you mentioned a roof. That's one thing, and I've heard about the fortified roofs. For the investors that do everything right and drive down those costs, have you seen any strategies or approaches that have been able to get the buyers to the closing table from your experience, either buying down, but like what else can investors do to get these flips to the closing table?
You have to price it correctly initially because you can offer all the incentives in the world, but when people are searching online, if they're not lured in immediately, you're going to lose their attention. And so then, I have investors who 90 days later want to offer all these credits. And I'm like, you already lost them, dude. Like, so then the only way you can regain that traction is by a price reduction, which in today's market is tough because the price reduction gets the internet's attention again, which is where most buyers come from, but it doesn't solve the monthly payment problem, So things that are helping, we have lots of different lenders coming out with programs, especially in Orleans Parish, that are covering, grants, or they're doing 100% financing or things like that. But really it's improving the condition of the property so that we can get competitive insurance quotes.
Yeah. All right.
Make the roof fortified.
Yeah. And what does the future look like for you on real estate investment? Are we going bigger? Or are we staying stable? What's your vision
Yeah.
on your real estate investment career?
My real estate agent business is really kind of blowing up right now. And so I think I've really handed the investing side off to my husband, and he's doing great. And so hopefully he can take that to the next level for us while I focus on this because,
Awesome.
you need your fast, medium, and slow money. So real estate agenting is my fast money, and I got to focus on that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Audience questions, hands. Yep.
How you doing? So what is the best way for a realtor to work the most in this whole process to be able to execute the vision?
Email me.
The question was, what's the best way for a realtor to work with a wholesaler?
Yeah. So as a realtor, I might, I'm going to buy from you. So, there's not much, I don't know if there's really much crossover between a real estate agent and a wholesaler other than being your buyer, or I can connect you to a client that might have a buyer, or at that point we could JV a deal. If I have the buyer, like we need to just JV. But I think to appeal to agents that are buyers, like you really got to have those ARVs on track, because I see some wild ARVs like are way in the clouds sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yep. Next question.
Steve, plus I want to talk about investments. We don't always have realtors here, so can you talk to me, because I know you've been independent broker, or so you were agent, broker, and associate broker. Can you just maybe talk a little bit about that?
It's just fancy titles. No, when you get a salesperson license, you're just a realtor. You join the board, you're a realtor. And then after 4 years, you can get a broker license. And if you want to go out on your own, you're able to do that. And so I was a salesperson. Then I was my own broker. And then I decided that I had too much on my plate and something had to give. So I've closed that up, and then I joined an existing brokerage, Reve Realtors. And so just because, I took the extra test, I'm an associate broker, but I'm just a real estate. No. I mean, if there is, I don't know, but it's not, no. It sounds good. I walk in my listing appointment, I'm like, I'm an associate broker.
Questions? Last question for me. So, exit strategy, that's your preference. Did you have a favorite exit strategy since you've been starting investing?
Yeah, two of
What's your
them I
favorite?
just bought at such deep discount that we cleaned out the trash and stuck them right back on the MLS, and they sold
Wow.
immediately, and that rocked. So essentially a wholesale.
Okay. So bought it off market,
Mhm.
cleaned it out, threw it right back on the market.
Mhm.
And how long did it take to sell?
Fast. I mean, we were closed in less than 40 days, like 30, 40 days.
Do you have to make sure that the FHA ready when you do that?
No,
Like
they
it's-
were in poor condition, so they were cash buyers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah, both of them.
All right. Well, everybody put your hands together for Gabriella. That was awesome.